Red Bull, Verstappen, worst qualifying of the season. 1% off the pace. That was double the deficit of Bahrain in qualifying. I mean, we've talked about this before with regards to the Red Bull, but that RB21, much like previous iterations, does not like curbs, I should say. Bernie does it. It just is not at home, and it lacks the mechanical grip that some of the others do.
Is Red Bull secretly sabotaging their second seat? This discussion might finally explain it. Check this video out.
Yeah, and I think we praise Verstappen for very often getting the most out of the car. But if the car is nervous or not consistent lap on lap, not repeatable corner on corner, you don't trust the braking, and we hear so often the complaints about the braking. Monaco's the worst circuit for that. If you don't know reliably where your car is going to place each lap, it's very hard to get the most out of it in Monaco. Every street circuit will be very difficult. The circuits with a bit more runoff, you can maybe catch it, but you can't in Monaco. When you make a mistake, that's it. It's game over. So, yes, I'm sure he will have wished that they could have done better. But they gave it a good shot in the race. It didn't ultimately change his finish position, but they gave it a good shot.
Yeah, holding out for the late safety car, the red flag. Obviously, they did the opposite of the leaders. It was kind of a damage limitation performance for them, wasn't it, for Max? I mean, he's twice a winner around the streets of Monaco.
How many drivers could finish strong in Monaco, knowing their car won't cooperate lap to lap? This was Max at his most calculating, adapting, adjusting, and still making it work. Is it really the car that's falling short? Or is Max just too good at hiding its flaws? This was classic Verstappen, managing risk, reading the track, and executing under pressure. Even with a nervous rear and poor curb handling, he pushed the RB21 to its limit. Monaco punishes hesitation, and Max showed exactly why he's the grid's gold standard.
But I want to talk to you, Crofty, about the other car and Yuki Tsunoda. Out of the points again. It's the familiar tale. We've had it so often now. Christian himself has already written off the constructors. But where do we go with this? Because it doesn't matter. Could any other driver on the grid drive that second Red Bull and be within, I don't know, 2 or 3 tenths of Max regularly? I just can't see it. I mean, this is not poor quality drivers we're seeing in the second car. These are very, very decent Grand Prix drivers. And it just is a perennial issue that I don't know how they get on top of it.
No, but I think the answer to your question is yes, but they're not going to sign Lando Norris or George Russell or Carlos Sainz or drivers of that caliber. And with all due respect to Yuki, who I know is now the most experienced Japanese driver in Formula One history, he's not a Lando Norris. He's a good driver, but he's not a race-winning driver yet. One day I hope he is. Now, I suppose the temptation for Red Bull is just to carry on doing what they're doing, and then maybe they will find, in Arvid Lindblad or whoever's coming through the ranks after him, or even Isaac Hadjar, a driver that can live with Max. But Max is exceptional. Max is a phenomenal talent, and Max will extract way more performance out of any car, I think, at the moment than most drivers on the grid. He's the form driver on the grid. And to say that he's got to get within 2 or 3 tenths of Max is a tall order, a tough order. But Red Bull are a championship winning team, and therefore it's not an unrealistic ask for that second driver in the Red Bull car.
This segment nails a tough truth. Max Verstappen isn't just leading, he's redefining the standard. Is it really fair to measure any driver against Max Verstappen right now? Let's face it, being within 3 tenths of Max isn't just tough, it's nearly impossible. Max is driving at a level where even top-tier talent would struggle to match him lap after lap. So maybe the problem isn't the second seat, maybe it's that Max makes everyone else look average.
I personally think they've got the wrong driver still. And they should have gone. If they want to win a Constructors' Championship, go and get a driver that is good enough. And Yuki might well be in time, but I don't think he's proved it. Well, they should have got Carlos Sainz, but for whatever reason, that didn't happen. Carlos Sainz was the driver available on the market for next year. Now, once you've not got Carlos Sainz, who are you looking for in the future? Lando's locked into a long-term contract. George Russell's out of contract at the end of this year.
What a
George
combo
Russell-
that would be.
Well, it would be an interesting combo, and it'd give us plenty to talk about. And, I don't think there's any animosity between George and Max. They're just fiercely competitive human beings that have not always seen eye to eye on the track at any given moment. But that's the caliber of driver they're going to have to get. And I've not got a downer on Yuki, trust me. But is he a consistent podium finisher or race winner? Look at the stats. No, he's not. Do you want to be a constructors champion? Yes. Therefore, go out and get a consistent race winner or podium finisher. Otherwise, he's going to finish in the lower reaches of the top 10 when your other driver's going to be, second or third on the grid.
Carlos Sainz was the obvious play, proven pace, sharp racecraft, and crucially available. Red Bull passed, and that decision could come back to haunt them in the constructors' race. Yuki's growth is real, but growth alone doesn't deliver podiums. This highlights a critical truth. Max Verstappen can't win the team championship alone. Podiums matter, consistency matters, and right now, Red Bull is leaving points on the table. Yuki's got talent, no doubt, but he's not yet at the level needed to match the mission. A second seat at Red Bull should demand more than potential. It should demand results.
Bernie, we touched on this on the pod the other day. You can see what Alpine are doing, and actually they've now been linked with even potentially Mick Schumacher coming back in, or at the very least, Paul Aaron. I don't know if they're going to mix and match all year just because get it right before the new regulations come in. But might we see that, do you think, in the Red Bull senior team as well? Might we see Isaac Hadjar get an opportunity if this continues along the same lines of what was going on with Liam Lawson, do you think?
Anything could happen. Anything could happen in terms of who they put in that second seat. But they need to be really careful because look at someone like Hadjar. He's come in this year, being very strong, very consistent, getting the job done. And it could ruin him to put him in that Red Bull seat, quite frankly. If there's not
everybody.
enough, exactly. If there's not enough work done in the background, so it is a bit the poison chalice, really, if you want to think of it like that. So the bigger question for me for Red Bull is: we know Verstappen is this talent. None of us can really put a number on how talented because you never get direct comparison and all of this. Like, how far off has that Red Bull car been over the last few years? But can they improve the car? Can they make, even if they leave Max's car well enough alone, can they make the other car work for a second driver? And they've got all this data. They've got, we talked about them having a second team. They've got the RB data. They've got their own data. Out of those three drivers, pick the driver that's best suited to the characteristics of that car and get that car that has not worked for the last 3 or 4 years in a race winning position. That's what needs to happen. And they need, as much as you say, they need to get their driver lineup sorted out for next year, they need to get the car sorted out for next year. They are, if Max wins the championship this year, the driver championship, it would be his best by far win of a driver's championship because the package is not working. So they need to get on top of that for next year.
Is it really about the driver, or is Red Bull finally facing the limits of their second seat setup? They've cycled through talent, Gasly, Albon, Perez, but maybe the issue runs deeper. If the car is built around Max's driving DNA, how can anyone else not struggle? Shouldn't the focus now be build a package that's adaptable, not just elite for one? Why keep throwing good drivers at a car that clearly rejects them? Red Bull has 2 teams, mountains of data, and still the second seat remains a mystery.
What we're seeing is world class, isn't it, Crofty? It's world class every single time we talk about Max. Actually, what we're seeing is something extraordinarily special.
I totally agree, because it's not like Max is really happy with the car. It's not like Max says this car's an absolute dream. He's driving around the problems because he has got that talent. I don't know if you can engineer a car in 2 different ways at a racetrack, and I don't know in time whether Yuki Tsunoda will get used to it and his muscle memory will become more adept at this Red Bull rather than the racing bulls, and he might go and score better points. But I know what you're saying about the engineering lineup, Bernie, but can a good jockey make a bad horse great? No. A better jockey can make a bad horse better. It is the only analogy I can give there, and I've backed many a bad horse in my time. Trust me.
You could make the second Red Bull a racing bull. Just do that. Just have
exactly.
a complete copy. That'd actually be closer.
How many drivers could handle a car they don't trust and still dominate weekends? Max isn't thriving because of the car. He's thriving in spite of it. They say a great jockey can't fix a bad horse, but Max is proving that a great driver can redefine a flawed machine. Red Bull's second seat may still be in limbo, but the first, that's not just secure. It's operating at a level Formula One rarely sees. This is Verstappen at his most complete.